Today we're going to talk about sex-linked traits and genetics. So to start, I just want to talk about sex chromosomes. So chromosome number 23 is what determines the sex of an individual. And remember, you get two chromosomes. You get one from your biological mother and one from your biological father. So individuals who get an X from one parent and a Y from another parent are considered to be male. And individuals who get an X from one parent and an X from the second parent are considered to be females. So if you look at the diagram below, these are karyotypes, or just pictures of an individual's chromosomes. So sex is determined by the last pair, number 23. Okay, and males receive an X and a Y. Females receive two X chromosomes. Now, before we move on for the day, I just want to clarify that in high school biology, we keep this really simple. And so we make this general rule that XY equals male and XX equals female. However, as we'll learn in just a couple days, life is not always that simple and that black and white. And so there is something called non-disjunction. And so that's in the process of meiosis. Maybe these chromosomes don't separate as they should. And so you get these exceptions to this XY or XX rule. So for example, you might have a female who just gets one X chromosome. Okay, that's something called Turner syndrome. Okay, or perhaps you have a male that's XXY. Okay, and that's called Klinefelter syndrome. And so before we move on for the day, I just want to point out that not every single person perfectly fits into XY and XX for being male and female. And we have scenarios like non-disjunction, and we'll talk about that in just a couple days. So just know, in real life, it's a little bit more complicated. However, for today, we're going to keep it really simple, okay? And we're going to say XY is male, XX is female. All right, so then let's talk about our X and Y chromosomes. Okay, the X chromosome is much larger. I don't know if you remember from 2 slides ago, I put up the karyotypes of a male and a female, and the X chromosome is much larger than a Y. And the X chromosome carries a variety of genes for both males and females. The Y chromosome, on the other hand, is much smaller, and the Y chromosome just mainly has genes for male characteristics, since the Y is unique to males. Females have 2 X chromosomes, and they experience something called dosage compensation. So since females have 2 X chromosomes and males only get 1 X chromosome, one of the X chromosomes stops working in females. Okay, so you only need 1 X chromosome. And so whichever X stops working is completely random, and they can alternate throughout time. So just because maybe the X from your biological father has stopped working doesn't mean that later in life they won't change, okay? And so again, this X that stops working, it's either called dosage compensation or X inactivation. So let me give you an example of dosage compensation or X inactivation. Calico cats provide a really good example. So calico cats have this unique color pattern on their coat. And this different color pattern, it's caused by the random inactivation of the X chromosome. Okay, and so maybe 1 X chromosome codes for the black fur while the other codes for the orange fur. So today, we are going to look at sex-linked traits. So that means we're going to look at certain traits that have some sort of relation to your biological sex. So some popular ones would be like color blindness, and we might talk about hemophilia. So certain traits that get passed down because they're on the X chromosome. Okay. So in your notes, make sure you have that these genes are only on the X chromosome. They are not on the Y chromosome. So that means that these X-linked alleles are always going to show up in males. And that's because males only have one X chromosome. So let me go through the example of color blindness. Okay, so color blindness is a lowercase b. It's going to be considered to be like recessive in a female, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so normal vision is going to be represented with a capital B. Okay, so females, their alleles for sex are XX. So if a female is unaffected, they see color just fine, we would write their genotype with X with a superscript of a capital B, X superscript of a capital B. Okay, so that means that they're completely unaffected by color blindness. Make sure you get this in your notes. Then we can have a female who's a carrier. A carrier means that she's going to have normal vision, but she carries the gene for that color blindness trait. So she's going to have an X with the superscript of B, and then X with the superscript of a lowercase b. Okay. Since she has one allele for normal vision, that is going to be dominant. So she will see normal, but she does carry one of the recessive alleles for color blindness, which means she could potentially pass that on to offspring. Again, make sure you get this one in your notes. And then if a female is going to be affected by color blindness, she has to have that gene on both X chromosomes. So we have X to the lowercase b, X to the lowercase b, and that means affected. So in order for a female to be colorblind, she has to have the trait for color blindness on both X chromosomes. So now let's look at how color blindness could be passed down to a male. So males are XY, and these genes only show up on the X chromosome. So you're only going to see the B as a superscript on the X. So an unaffected male is going to be X capital B Y. Okay, so that means that that male has normal vision. And then if a male is colorblind, you'll see X lowercase b Y. Okay, so the lowercase b is showing that he has the trait for color blindness, and since he has it, he'll be colorblind. So color blindness is more popular in males than it is females, and the reason for that is, in order for a female to be colorblind, she has to inherit two recessive alleles, one from the mother and one from the father. In order for the male to be affected by color blindness, he just has to inherit one color blindness trait. And he'll end up getting that from the mother, since that is his X chromosome. All right, so on this slide, we're just going to practice writing the genotypes of females and males who are colorblind or not colorblind, just so we can get used to how do we actually write these genotypes out. And so as I do this on the video, I want you to also write these down in your notes. And so I'm just going to define alleles. I'm going to say capital B is normal vision. Lowercase b is going to be colorblind. All right, so we're going to write the genotype of a female who is not colorblind. So she's female, so she's going to be XX. And then if she's not colorblind and she's not a carrier, she's going to be normal. Okay, so X big B, X big B. Next, we're going to write the genotype of a female who is colorblind. So she's female, so again, she's XX. And in order for the female to be colorblind, she has to be a lowercase b, lowercase b. Now we're going to write the genotype of a female who is a carrier for color blindness. Okay, so it means she's heterozygous. So she's still XX. Okay, and she's just a carrier, so it means she has a normal allele and she has a recessive. Okay, so that means she is not colorblind herself, but she could pass that trait on to her offspring. Next, we'll write the genotype for a male who is colorblind. Males are X, Y. Okay. And if he is colorblind, he has to have the trait. And remember, for males, it's only an X-linked trait, so the Y doesn't get any superscript. So if a male's colorblind, it's X little b y. And then finally, we're going to write the genotype for a male who is not colorblind. So he's XY, and if he's normal vision, he has a capital B. All right, so now let's do a practice problem looking at colorblindness. So we have a colorblind male marries a female carrier for colorblindness. What is the probability they will have a child who is colorblind? So we always want to start with just identifying our alleles. So I'm going to say capital B is normal, lowercase b is colorblind. Next, we're going to write the parent cross. So we have a colorblind male, so he's XY, and since he's colorblind, he has to have a little b. And we're going to cross him with a female carrier. So the female is XX, and to be a carrier, she has to have one capital B and one lowercase b. So now if we want to predict what their offspring could be for genotype and phenotype, we're going to use our Punnett square. Our male is X with a little b and a Y. And then our female is X with a big B, X with a little b. So now I'm going to fill out the Punnett square, just how we have been, and I'm going to just make sure I bring the subscripts with those X's. Okay, so on this top left square, I'm going to combine X big B and X little b. And if you can, the capital letter always comes first. So if you can remember, it's like X to the capital B, then X to the lowercase b. Next, in the top right corner, I have X to the capital B, Y. In the bottom left, we have X little b, X little b. And in the bottom right, we have X little b, Y. So now we're going to look at what is the probability that they will have a child who's colorblind. So this offspring is a daughter, XX, and she has a capital B. So this is a daughter with normal vision. Down here is a daughter with two little b's, so she would be colorblind. Then we have XY, this would be a son, and a capital B is normal, and then XY is a son with a lowercase b, which is colorblind. So this couple has a 50% probability, right? So if you look at chances of having a daughter, it's a 50% chance of normal vision, 50% chance of colorblindness. If they have a son, 50% chance of normal, 50% chance of colorblindness. Okay, so their probability of having a child who's colorblind is a 50% chance. All right, let's do another example. We're going to cross a woman who is a carrier for colorblindness and a man with normal vision. I'm going to keep the same alleles, just using capital B for normal vision, lowercase b for colorblindness. So my woman who is a carrier is X big B, X little b. And she is going to mate with a man who has normal vision. So now I'm going to draw the Punnett square. So the woman is X big B, X little b. And the male is X big B, Y. All right, so now we'll fill out the Punnett square. So we have X big B, X big B. We have X big B, Y. We get X big B, X little b, and then X little b, Y. All right, so now let's look at the potential offspring. Okay, so when you have XX and XX, these are daughters. So if this couple were to have a daughter, she's going to have normal vision no matter what. Okay, she has at least one capital B. So in no way could they produce a colorblind female. And then if you look at the XYs, this is having a son. This one up here would have normal vision, and this one down here would be colorblind. So if they have a son, there's a 50% chance he would be colorblind. So there's a 0% chance for the daughter to be colorblind. And then there's a 50% chance that a son would be colorblind. All right, so now we're going to do one more practice problem. This one is just a little bit different. This time, a couple has a daughter who is colorblind. What could the parent genotypes be? So to figure out this problem, we have to work backwards a little bit. So I'm going to start with the Punnett square. And this couple has a daughter. So in our past problems, our daughters have been in the top left and the bottom left boxes. Okay, so since it's a daughter, I know she has to be XX. And if she's going to be colorblind, that means she has to be X little b, X little b. So then this allele has to be X little b. Okay. And then the male has to be a Y. Okay, so we know the male has to be X little b, Y. The female genotype right here, this one, it doesn't matter. Mom could be X big B, or she could be X little b. Okay, it doesn't matter because either or, as long as this one's X little b, you could still have a colorblind daughter. So for the female, she could be X big B, X little b, or X little b, X little b. Okay, let's do another practice problem. This time, instead of color blindness, we're going to look at hair and baldness. So I'm going to say capital B is normal hair, lowercase b is baldness. Okay. So we're going to cross a non-carrier woman with a bald man, and then we'll figure out what percentage of their child or their children could be bald. So I'm just going to start by writing the parent genotypes. Okay, so we have a non-carrier woman. So that means she is X with normal hair, X with normal hair. And she's going to mate with a bald man. So the man is X little b, Y. And if we want to predict what are their offspring going to look like, we're going to draw a Punnett square. So we have X little b, Y, X big B, X big B. All right, so now we're going to fill out the Punnett square, just like we did on all the other problems. All right, so now we're going to look at the offspring and figure out what percent could be bald. Okay. So the female, she has at least one big B, so she'll have normal hair. Again, big B, normal hair. X big B, normal hair. So this couple, there's a 0% chance that they would make a child who could be bald. All right, let's do another example. This time we're going to cross a female who's a carrier for baldness with a normal male. What percentage of their children could be bald? So if a female is a carrier, she'll have the X big B, X little b, and the male is normal, so X big B, Y. All right, so then we'll use the Punnett square to predict the offspring. If you want, go ahead and pause the video right now, and then you try to fill out the Punnett square on your own, and then once everyone has tried to fill out the Punnett square, resume the video, and then you can check answers. Okay, so let's check your work. You should have X big B, X big B, X big B, Y, X big B, X little b, and then X little b, Y. So then let's figure out what percentage of the children could be bald. If we look at the daughters, they both have at least one capital B, so they will have normal hair. This son, he would have normal hair, and this one down here has the lowercase b, so he would be bald. So for this couple, for daughters, there's a 0% chance for daughters, 50% chance for sons. All right, so let me ask you this question. Males in particular are more likely to experience balding as they age. Which side of the family should males look at to determine if they might go bald one day? So go ahead and pause this video for a minute and have a quick little class discussion of, well, which side of the family do you look at? If you are interested, if you're male, if you're going to go bald, if you're a female, maybe you have a brother. Okay, is he going to go bald? Should you look at your mom's side of the family or your dad's side of the family? Okay, so I hope you paused the video and you had a discussion on which side of the family you should look at to determine if you might go bald. This follows along the pattern of a sex-linked trait. So males are XY. They get the Y from their biological father, and they get the X from their biological mother. And if baldness is attached to the X chromosome, then you need to look at your mom's side of the family to figure out if potentially going bald is even in the family genes.